V Rising is a brand new survival game where you play as a freshly awakened vampire on a quest to conquer the world of humans. You'll spend your time doing traditional vampire activities such as drinking blood, transforming into animals, sleeping in a coffin, and, of course, mining copper ore for crafting purposes. Just like Dracula. He loved a bit of copper ore. Although V Rising shares a lot of similarities with the likes of Valheim and Don't Starve, requiring players to gather materials in order to progress through an expansive technology tree, its vampire theming introduces a number of unique mechanics that make the game feel distinct and fresh. I've really enjoyed my time with it so far, and I think it could be the next big survival game hit. The issue, as is so often the case with survival games, is that some elements of V Rising aren't hugely intuitive. Thankfully, I'm here to help. In this beginner's guide, I'll give you all the tips you need to become the most powerful blood-sucking goth in all of Vardoran. So pop in your vampire teeth and let's get started. Before we get into specific tips and tricks, here's a quick explainer of what V Rising actually is. V Rising is an open-world multiplayer survival game where you play as a lovely little vampire. Your ultimate goal isn't just to survive, but to thrive, conquering the world by defeating a large roster of powerful enemies who take offense to your supernatural affliction. You do this by first collecting materials from an open world, chopping down trees, smashing boulders, and killing animals. You can then use these raw materials to craft equipment, such as weapons, armor, and tools, or transform them into more valuable resources using production buildings. Once you have a sufficiently capable loadout, it's time to hunt down dangerous enemies. Defeating them will unlock new vampiric abilities and buildings, allowing you to craft new items in turn. Over time, your humble wooden base will become a sprawling gothic castle, capable of protecting your precious items against roaming bands of enemies or rival players. Like most survival games, V Rising is at its best when played with friends, but you can enjoy the game solo if you prefer. Speaking of, the first thing you need to decide when playing V Rising is which game mode to choose. V Rising offers multiple distinct modes, each with its own set of rules that match a specific playstyle. There are 5 different online game modes to choose between. PvE lets you enjoy the game without having to worry about being attacked by other players. PvP, on the other hand, allows you to attack other vampires and even raid their castles at certain times in order to steal their loot. In both PvP and PvE servers, up to 4 players can join a clan, working together to become the most powerful vampires on the server. Full loot PvP is similar to PvP, except when you die, you lose all of your loot rather than just your materials. Your castles can also be fully destroyed, making this the most hardcore experience available. Solo PvP is the same as regular PvP, except you can't form a clan and are forced to defend yourself against every other vampire on the server. Duo PvP, meanwhile, lets you clan up with just one other vampire for an intense 2 versus the world experience. For newcomers, I'd recommend joining a PvE server either alone or with some friends. This will allow you to understand the basics of the game while still giving you the option to chat with other vampires. It's nice to be able to ask a neighbour for some help while mining resources, or even teaming up together to take down some of the game's more powerful bosses. If none of these online options sound like a good fit for you, you can also create a private, self-hosted server to play either solo or with friends. Once you've joined a server, you're free to explore V Rising's huge open world. However, before you venture forth, it's good to understand how your vampirism affects gameplay. The most important thing to remember is that sunlight is your biggest enemy in the game. Forget vampire hunters, demon trees, or huge moose. Sunlight burns badly. Whenever the sun rises, make sure you stick to the shadows as much as you possibly can, jumping between patches of darkness using your dash ability, which you can activate by pressing space. The sun is an actual object that moves through the sky, meaning shadows will shift dynamically depending on the sun's current position, so be sure to keep moving even if you think you found a patch that seems to be well covered. Chances are it won't be for long. Thankfully, the sun is only out for a fraction of an in-game day, so it shouldn't affect you too much. Just keep an eye on the clock to the left of your minimap and try to only venture outside during the night. The daytime is a perfect opportunity to lurk within your castle instead, crafting items or planning your next move. On a similar note, blood is also an essential mechanic unique to the world of V Rising. This bar here represents your blood pool, which drains slowly over time. Once it's empty, you'll start to take damage and will eventually perish unless you snack on some delicious hot sauce. You can easily top up your blood meter by feasting on rats or hearts, items that can be found across the open world by either destroying objects or by killing creatures. The best way to fill your blood pool, however, is to feed on a living thing. When an enemy or an animal you're attacking is about to die, you'll be given the option to drink their blood by pressing F. Once the animation has been completed, your blood pool will be topped up significantly. Blood's most useful function is allowing you to heal. Holding control and then selecting this icon performs Blood Mend, healing your vampire in exchange for blood. Remember to always have a pocket full of rats before tracking a powerful foe, just in case you need to heal. Feeding on other living things doesn't just top up your blood meter, however, it also changes your blood type depending on the creature you drain. By default, your vampire's blood type will be frail, but draining the blood of another living thing will swap it out for something else. Blood types function like classes, with each type granting a set of different perks depending on its quality. Your current blood type is indicated by this icon to the left of your blood pool. Hovering over it will show you your currently active perks based on the quality of the creature you fed on. If you're looking for a specific set of perks, you can check what blood type and quality percentage an enemy has by hovering over them with your mouse. I'd recommend you pick off all other enemies in the area before you feast, as you do still take damage while feeding. Blood quality is seemingly generated randomly, but every enemy has a specific blood type that is usually based on their combat style. Sword wielders have a blood type of warrior, for instance, whereas assassins have a blood type of rogue. Early in the game, you'll be forced to swap between blood types constantly as you attempt to keep your pool topped up, but later on you'll be able to charm and even imprison humans in your castle, treating them like sausage rolls in a big gothic fridge, just waiting to be devoured at 4 AM by a sexy vampire in a dressing gown. If you are planning to team up with 3 other pals to, for instance, celebrate your shared love of the Twilight Saga, then you'll need to make a clan. Clans are tied to a server and can be created by pressing P. Once set up, you can invite any other player on your current server to join. Players in the same clan can build together and are unable to do damage to one another when playing the PvP game mode. If playing PvE, I'd suggest each member of your clan builds a base in different areas of the map. It can take a while to travel across the open world, especially before you unlock mounts. It can be handy to have multiple bases to stop off at in order to craft, heal, or store materials before continuing on your adventure. When it's time to finish playing, make sure you don't just disconnect without sleeping within your coffin first. Logging off haphazardly will make your character lie down and fall asleep wherever they were last standing. Other players can then drag your character anywhere they want, meaning you could get a nasty fright the next time you log in and find yourself in the middle of a higher level area. You could also get burned to a crisp if the sun comes out and you're just lying in the middle of a path, which would result in you losing all of your precious materials, which is no good. Build a coffin and make sure you use it. Your life is literally at stake. You get it? Alright, moving on. Your castle serves as your base in V Rising, a central hub that provides you with safety from creatures, hunters, and other vampires, depending on your game mode. Here are some tips to ensure your castle is the envy of every other undead bloodsucker on the server. For starters, make sure you pick a good location to place your castle heart. I tend to choose a large flat area of land located a fair distance away from the starting area, but not too far away that I'm surrounded by high-level enemies enemies I can't kill. Before you place your castle heart, make sure there are no other player castles nearby. You'll want to expand your castle over time, and your space will be limited if your neighbour manages to do so first. Speaking of, after placing your castle heart, drop down loads of borders to claim as large an area as possible. You don't have to build anything on them straight away, but it just means you'll have a considerable space to work with before you have to worry about expanding further out. Box yourself in using wooden walls before placing down a door. It's not a great defense, but it'll give you some privacy while you work your way through the earlier stages of the game. Wooden walls do not create a ceiling, however, unlike stone walls, which automatically protect your castle from that pesky hot orb in the sky. Wooden walls do provide a small amount of shadow, but be wary when crafting during daylight as it's easy to get caught out. If you're playing on a PvP server, invest in a vampire lockbox as soon as possible. This specific chest protects your most precious items even when your castle is being raided by other vampires. Castle hearts must be constantly topped up with a resource called blood essence. Without it, castle hearts will decay and eventually your whole castle will disappear, taking all of your items along with it. You can get blood essence from killing enemies and animals, so make sure you're constantly keeping it topped up so you don't lose everything. Oh, and if you're playing on a PvE server, don't place your castle right next to someone else's. It's just rude, and it'll make the game more frustrating for you and your fellow players. If you do place your castle heart down by accident, don't worry. When in the build menu, you can hold space to remove any objects you've already built. Do it quickly enough, you'll even get a 100% refund on any resources you use to build it. Castle hearts can only be removed once every item linked to it has been destroyed, including borders, so make sure you pack everything up before you move on. When you first start V Rising, you'll notice that you've been given a quest in the top left of the screen. I'd recommend you follow these quests to their conclusion, as they serve as the game's tutorial, introducing you to various mechanics that are essential to your survival. However, after a little while, you may require some items that you're unable to craft. If you find yourself getting stuck, check out the Blood Altar. The Blood Altar provides you with a list of V Blood carriers, boss characters that can be defeated in exchange for new abilities and buildings. Early bosses, such as Keely the Frost Archer, will unlock buildings such as the Tannery, which allows you to turn animal hides into leather. Keep an eye on this list at all times to make sure you're always making progress towards the next essential unlock. If you're missing some specific materials, you can always check out your map. These yellow highlighted areas are points of interest, usually bandit camps or small towns. Hovering over these locations will reveal to you the types of materials that have a chance of dropping when you either defeat enemies or destroy objects within this boundary. Last but certainly not least, here are some combat tips to help you defeat V Rising's roster of horrible enemies. The combat mechanics in V Rising are similar to the ones found in ARPGs like Diablo or Torchlight. Left-clicking activates your primary attack, while special abilities can be unleashed using the hotbar at the bottom of the screen. Using your primary weapon and abilities in tandem with one another is the best way to succeed against foes. Oh, and you can hold left click to continuously attack. You don't have to keep clicking constantly. I didn't realise that for way longer than I'm willing to admit. When engaging enemies, make sure you keep an eye on your blood level and top it up whenever you can, especially if you're healing often. If you're about to fight a difficult boss, consider hunting down a specific blood type that matches your preferred playstyle. You can also kill enemies instantly by feeding on them before cancelling the move immediately with a left click. This is dead handy, especially if you're fighting a large group of enemies and need to thin the crowd down a bit. Also, make sure you're swapping out your abilities before facing off against V Blood carriers. Some are more susceptible to different types of damage than others, so switch up your powers if you're struggling to take them down. New abilities are unlocked by killing different V Blood carriers, so try to defeat as many as possible as soon as you're powerful enough to do so. It's worth mentioning that you don't level up in the traditional sense in V Rising. Instead of earning XP, your character character's level is based on your currently equipped gear. If you're going up against a tougher enemy, swap out your current weapons and armor for better quality stuff in order to give yourself the upper hand. Higher quality weapons also grant you weapon abilities, which can be found on the hotbar here. Again, I missed this at first and just didn't use them for about 2 hours. If you die, you'll drop all of your materials but keep all of your weapons and armor, unless you're playing on a full loot PvP server, of course. Make sure you get back to where you died as quickly as possible to pick it back up before it vanishes, or even worse, another cheeky vampire on your PvP server nicks it. So there we have it, 10 tips to get you started in V Rising. Have you been playing this game? Let us know what you think of it in the comments below. For more PC goodness, check out Rock Paper Shotgun. Thank you so much for watching.